Good evening. Welcome to the Selectmen's Meeting for August 7th, 2018. Roll call, please.
Cindy King is present.
Wayne Miller present.
And Sue Licio is present. We call the meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to announce that the meeting is being recorded. Anyone else recording? No. Chairman's additions or deletions, we've added 2.2, an appointment to the 300th anniversary committee that we had missed. 1.5, 15-minute public comment period. Anybody? John?
For something different. John Page, Smith Street. In listening to the meetings with this board and the prior board, a couple concerns that have always come up among the board members and the people at the front table is, one, transparency is important. And another issue that was of a concern was legal fees. And so I thought there's a couple things that are going on that maybe we could add to the transparency and also let people know what's happening with legal fees. There are, to my knowledge, 4 lawsuits that have either been filed and or served. And I know from being in that field that there are papers that get distributed, complaints, answers, motions, responses. And as those things become available to the town for those cases that have not yet been served, I think it would be very beneficial to folks to be able to see those documents without having to go to Lowell or Worcester or anywhere like that. And so as these cases start to come together, for those that haven't been served or for those that have, if those things could perhaps be posted on the town website to allow people to see what's going on, so they'll have a better understanding and add to that feeling of transparency.
Question, so you're talking about if it's a public record that we just post it?
Once it's filed with the court, it becomes a public record. And I realize there may be some that haven't been served yet, but I do know that there are active docket cases for all of those. And short of traveling to the various courthouses to make copies myself, or for anyone else, I just thought it would be nice if the town could post those things as they receive them.
Okay, thanks for that input, John. We'll of course we would of course have to talk with town council about that and take some guidance from them, but Jim, maybe you could just look into that feasibility. Anything else? Okay. .1, appoint Eno Copey to the Historic District Commission for a 3-year term effective July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2021. Can I get a motion?
Move that board appoint Eno Coopi. Is that right? Okay.
Is that how it's pronounced?
Sorry if I did it wrong. To the
Copey, okay.
to the Historic District Commission for a 3-year term effective July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2021.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions?
Nope.
Comments? Thank you for your volunteering. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. 2.2, appoint Lindsay Morand to the 300th Anniversary Committee, I suppose that means, right? Is that what we're calling it? Okay. Effective August 7th, 2018. Do we have expiration dates for those?
I don't think we did yet.
No, it was the charge until...
I assume until the 300th.
Okay. Motion?
I move to appoint Lindsay Moran to the 300th Anniversary Committee effective August 7th, 2018.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I do have one other question. How many people did we decide on for that?
I think 5.
Okay. What are we up to, do you know?
I think this is the 5th one.
Oh,
I can
okay,
carve it
good.
for you if you want.
Great. Again, thanks, Lindsay, for volunteering. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3.1, review, approve, accept a restrictive covenant as part of an approved order of conditions for 45 Warren Road. 3.1.
Big long one.
Jim, can you summarize this, please?
Certainly. It's a brief memorandum from the Conservation Commission, so perhaps just to read. The Conservation Commission unanimously approved to accept a restrictive covenant for 45 Warren Road as a special condition to an amended order of conditions issued to DEP. The file is 308640, dated July 25th of 2018. The covenant is described as part of Lot 1, Conservation Easement 9.3 plus or minus acres on a plan of land entitled Easement Plan, Townsend, Massachusetts, dated July 11th, 2018, prepared by Ducharme and Dillis Civil Design Group, Incorporated. The restriction was created in lieu of the 8.8 acres of mitigation land that was not accepted at the 2017 Fall Town Meeting. The restriction was reviewed by Town Council and suggested for approval of acceptance by the Board of Selectmen. So,
Okay, so we need a vote on it then?
yes.
Just move to accept.
Yep.
I move to accept the Conservation Committee's approval and acceptance of the restrictive covenant on 45 Warren Road.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
No, it's
Okay.
pretty straightforward.
If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. 3.2, review comment on mandatory referral for the Zoning Board of Appeals regarding special permit for accessory apartment on Clement Road. This is just a referral?
Yes.
Okay. We usually just do like
Move to thank.
no comment, thanks. Do you want to, we usually do a motion on that, though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Motion to,
I move to thank the Zoning Board of Appeals for the referral and no comment.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3.3, review comment on mandatory referral for the Zoning Board of Appeals regarding special permit for accessory apartment on Lunenburg Road.
I move that we thank the Zoning Board of Appeals for the referral and no comment.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Review, approve, sign a one-day special license for Terry Roy, VFW Post 6538, 491A Main Street, Townsend, in conjunction with a Jack and Jill, to be held August 11th, 2018, with sale hours from 7 to 11 p.m.
I move the board approve to sign a one-day special license for Terry Roy, VFW Post 6538, 491A Main Street, Townsend, in conjunction with the Jack and Jill, to be held on August 11th, 2018. Sale hours from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You'll have to say.
Cindy?
What? Oh.
3.5, review, approve, sign a one-day special license for Terry Roy, VFW Post 6538, 491A Main Street, Townsend, in conjunction with a college graduation, to be held August 18th, 2018, with sale hours from 7 to 11 p.m.
I move the board approve a one-day special license for Terry Roy, VFW Post 6538, 491A Main Street, Townsend, in conjunction with a college graduation to be held on August 18th, 2018, with sale hours from 7 to 11 p.m.
Oh, second, sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3.6, review, approve, sign a road opening permit regarding West Meadow over Lock Bridge.
I move the board approve a road opening permit, West Meadow over Lock Bridge.
Second.
Any questions? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3.7, accept the Mass Health reimbursement funds for providing ambulance service in the amount of $26,018. A motion?
Move the board accept the Mass Health reimbursement funds for providing ambulance service in the amount of $26,018.
Jim, did you want to talk about this at all?
There's a formula that the federal government uses for Medicaid eligible expenses that we incur above and beyond the reimbursement we receive. And this is the result of that calculation. So the chief is just asking that you vote to accept it and that it specifically be placed in the ambulance receipts reserved account for future use.
Okay.
I believe that's part of the Affordable Care Act, that providers, so I get kickback, I call it a kickback. But I get kickbacks from some,
It's kind of a little bonus.
it's a little bonus,
It's a
but, you know,
bonus,
the more
yeah.
Mass Health people that you see,
Yeah.
the more you get back.
Yeah. Well, but that's a
It's
good
not,
thing.
there's not a formula that we know in advance, but.
It's an incentive.
There can only be, the profits are limited that the insurance companies can actually make under the Affordable Health Care Act. And so they give that, they can't keep it, they have to give it to providers or, so that's, 26,000 is a good chunk of change to get.
Absolutely.
Very good.
I don't get that.
So you have no
I don't-
objection to us
No, not
accepting
at all.
this? Questions?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, town administrator updates and reports. Jim?
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of very brief things. The first is the Community Development Block Grant Award. You should each have a copy of a letter in your packet from the governor and lieutenant governor announcing last week that we are recipients of an $800,000 grant through the Community Development Block Grant Program. These are federal funds that are distributed to states, and then the states dole them out based on a competitive application process. A lot of communities are entitlement communities, which means they're guaranteed this amount if they submit an even halfway reasonable application. We are not one of those. We don't qualify for that, so we have to fight in the pool of a limited amount of resource for a pretty big number of people. You might recall last year we were not successful. This year we were. So $800,000, the bulk of which is housing rehab. You may remember the number of public hearings that we had where the gentleman from MRPC came out and informed you as to what the status was of the prior waiting
right,
list
yeah.
and how the socioeconomics of the community were lining up to make for a very attractive application. So this is the result of that work.
And where does the money end up going?
It comes into the town, and then the town, through whomever it has, some communities have internal staff. Here we do not. We would historically contract with someone like MRPC. They would manage it. So if we have a list of eligible homes that meet the income requirements and they have certain public health and welfare safety needs first.
Septic system
or
roofs.
roofs, mold remediation, insulation,
Do they have to
boilers.
apply?
There is an application process, and there is currently a multiple-year-long waiting list for these projects. They keep refreshing that list every time we put
So
an
this doesn't-
application in.
Part of the
There's no-
application was pre-application, so
Right.
we had to submit that we had a number of people.
So we don't have to use this by a certain date, I guess is my...
We do. We
Okay.
do. We'll generally have an 18-month window to perform under the grant.
Okay.
And there's more than enough.
So there were
need.
already a list of people who applied previously in order for us to even be looked at.
Correct.
And they're going to, because of this, get some important things fixed on their homes.
Absolutely. And the way it works is there'd be a lien placed on the home, and the most recent regulations are structured such that over a period of time, number of years, if you stay in the home, your obligation to pay those funds back diminishes each year. If year one, you get the new septic and you sell the home, you're going to pay the program back. That becomes what's called program income to the town. You may recall last year we had program income that had been sitting on the books for a number of years that we're able to redeploy out into the community to do some septic system work and some housing rehab work. So anything that we get back goes into that revolving program income fund.
How many homeowners do you think will be able to be serviced through this?
There's a I believe $35,000 limit. You can have exceptions, and they will grant waivers for extreme cases, but it's generally $35,000 per unit.
That's quite a few
allowed.
people.
Yeah, we'll be able to get to quite a few.
It's
The,
not many in comparison to the number of applications we have.
Yeah.
We have well
I
over
know,
100,
but,
yeah.
to be able to give people help like that is nice.
There was just for your information, there was an article in one of the local newspapers just yesterday. A community did not receive their grant, and it was stated expressly that it was as a result of some prior poor performance by MRPC in their admin and management. And it's implied, strongly implied, not quite stated, but strongly implied in the article that the state, through Department of Housing and Community Development, this program is considering not allowing MRPC to do administration for some period of time.
So then who would we,
There are a number of other groups out there that do it, and DHCD has a list of pre-approved
so we'd just work with the
consulting agents.
department on
Certainly.
that? Okay.
I mean, ideally, we would work with MRPC. You like to dance with the one that brung you. But if we're not allowed, then there are others out there that do it.
Do you need any kind of an acceptance from the board on this?
Nope,
Okay.
you voted to submit it, so
Right.
this is the fruit of your earlier vote.
Nice.
Next, there's a note under my report to talk about Senator Dean Tran and specifically the capital bond bill. Senator Tran has been very active over a very short period of time. You'll recall that we have been given consideration in prior bond authorizations for things like a monument. I know that Tubby Bushi was speaking with the chair about that very recently. The capital bond bill that we're talking about tonight is one that I've earlier reported out to you that I think literally the second or third day that Senator Tran was in office, he was told there was a deadline that day for the capital bond bill, and he reached out to the communities he represents, Townsend being one. I think we got the call at around 8 o'clock in the morning, and he said, can you put something together for consideration by noon? 11:34, our electronic postmark on the documents went out, but Mark Mercurio, the facilities coordinator, and I were able to put a scope together for the Hart Library. So we've talked about this publicly already, but just to kind of close the loop, looking at the HVAC systems, the electric system, and some insulation and weatherization, but most importantly, looking at doing handicapped access on the back of the building. So taking one of the windows on the second floor, converting it to a door such that you have the ability to get there from the back, so you're not really affecting the facade of the building for historical purposes. Having said that, we've been notified now that that project has been successfully accepted and voted into the capital bond bill. That doesn't mean we have the money. What that means is there's a list of pre-approved projects with associated dollar amounts tied to them that the governor has the ability to say, I'm going to authorize this one, but not that one.
To release the funds.
Right. So it's pre-approved, it's potential for us, but there's still one major step left, which is the governor's authorization. So the pressure point, if you will, now switches to the executive office. And I think we are pretty well situated given the fact that, well, we don't talk about party. Generally, we have a Republican governor and our senator and our rep are both Republicans. So we probably have a little bit of better access in that regard. So.
And we have a couple of other things that Senator Tran has put through the pipeline, I think, too, to
And
come.
discussion about the sidewalks in the common. I don't have all of the information on that one, so I don't want to overstate what that represents to us.
Yeah, it would be nice to get an update on that.
I know that.
Can you maybe give his office a call and get the details on?
But we've also not yet had him formally come in and introduce
Well,
himself.
then let's invite him.
You know, maybe he can give that update in that regard, and we can then
People know who the rep is.
Could,
very, very politely while he's here, ask him when he wants to go to the governor's office, so we can go with him.
yeah. That would be great. Could we invite him, please?
Absolutely.
Try and get him for the 21st.
We could try. I mean, I'm sure he's busy, but see if that,
Okay. Next, land use coordinator. The list of applicants submitted was culled down to 4. The last time we went through the process, we actually had members of boards and committees do the initial interview, and there wasn't great consensus of the candidates that came out of that process with staff. So I've kind of flipped it this time, and I did an initial interview with each of the 4, and of the 4, there are 2 that I think are very strong candidates, and my expectation is that they'll be invited back in for an interview with representatives from each of the boards that they'd be working with.
Excellent.
I think it makes better sense to not waste the volunteer people's time unless they're candidates that actually have legs. So the hope is that by your next meeting, we'll have a name for you.
that would be nice. Good.
You should also know that 201 of them, they asked about the housing authority. So they've watched the meetings and they've done some homework, and they wanted to understand what's the issue with the housing authority. Is there something going on that isn't being said? And I said, no, it's just as simple as there's a committee that hasn't traditionally had administrative support, and the discussion is not just about that one committee now, but across the board about all committees, on what the needs are for admin support. So,
Okay.
one candidate came in and presented forms with our town seal on them, our department information, and presented streamlined permitting, and said this is a project that she had done in another community, and she noticed that while some of our forms are good, not all of them talk to each other from department to department, and it was pretty interesting that she led with putting that packet of information on the table. So
Okay.
that's what we've got there, and that's actually all I have for you this short meeting of ours.
Okay. Cindy?
Yeah, 2 things that go together. In the May 2017 town meeting, the town approved to establish a disability commission. So far, in almost a year and a half, we've had, as far as I know, only 1 applicant. And this is an important commission which can lead to considerable number of dollars coming from the state, as well as grant money and just different supports to provide regulation and review of the whole town from end to end regarding issues related to disability access, and from parking to building access to everything else. And I want to really bring it up tonight because it's really important, because we have a grant application possible through the Massachusetts Office on Disability for up to $250,000 for successful applicants to remove barriers and create and improve accessible features and programmatic access for persons with disabilities throughout the Commonwealth. So I looked through the application process, and they give extra points for communities that have a commission on disability. Now, if we were to apply for this grant, which I would like to, but I don't know if I'd want to be so embarrassed, we'd have to really say, well, we've established a commission, but we can't staff it because no one in the community is interested in serving on such a commission. We cannot provide volunteers or people in the community that have an interest in providing this type of intervention in the community. Which we don't have to say all that, but that's what it would say, by really having to be honest and say, well, we have a commission, but we really haven't appointed anybody to it. We'd really have to put that as part of the application. And I think we'd lose points. I think we might just get passed over completely if we were to submit an application for this pretty good grant, which the first thought I had was including it in the Hart Library upgrade, which even if we got support from the state, that having an extra $250,000 to take care of the ADA business, then we could put more monies into making the Hart Library a really nice place. But I just want to ask the community if we can come up with 4 or 5 people to volunteer in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, what's the size, the potential size of the committee, or what should we establish it at?
I have, well,
5?
it's by law, so I think it's 5 or 7. It's probably at least 5.
Okay, so that's one question. So how many
But I mean,
people-
if, don't people, call in to say how many people have signed in already? If you're interested in volunteering, just send in your application. If we get 10 people, we can narrow it down. How many it is at this point.
Okay, so I have a question. We're going to put together, we're asking that people volunteer for a disability commission. Specifically, what kinds of things would they have to do and how much time would that require? I think it's similar to all of the stuff that we're running into with the volunteer committee. So because you're asking about this one, let's just take the opportunity to say, all right, what are the kinds of things they have to do? Is it the town buildings and properties that would be that they would be looking at specifically, or is it anyone in town, including private businesses?
I don't have the packet for the commission. It's in the law. It's based on, because we voted based on what the law required the commission to do and to support. I'll take the time.
Well, if you don't know off the top,
Well, I'll
that's
just look it
fine.
up.
We could put a
It'll only
little
take about
summary.
15 minutes
We
to-
could just put a little summary online, kind of explaining that,
Sure.
okay?
If you go to Massachusetts Office on Disability and just look up, or just Google Massachusetts Commission on Massachusetts Office on Disability, Disability Commissions.
Okay.
It's very clear, but, and it's not a full-time job. It's
Needed
certainly-
once or twice a
It just
month.
needs a little bit more time than when they've already committed to it. But if we don't get a commission together, I do not recommend that we apply for this grant, just because.
What's
it
the
would-
deadline on the grant?
It's,
pretty short.
it's open now until October 1st, so we got about 7 weeks to get the application in.
Okay.
So if we don't have, it would be the commission that
So-
would be.
So if disabilities are something that sparks your interest and your heart for making access easier for folks with disabilities, and you can afford to give us a little bit of time, that would be wonderful.
Madam Chair, on this issue, I've heard Cindy talk in the past about, and actually I think you have as well, about the aging population that we are in this community, and that demographically, 10 years out, 15, 20 years out, what we're going to be as a percentage of the local population that will be elderly. While age is not a disability, issues that the Disability Commission would be working on definitely impact people who are aging. So whether it's crosswalks that have better access and curb cuts, whether it's sidewalks that are more conducive to people being able to travel that have mobility issues, or parking, handicap parking.
Making sure we have that
you know,
covered. Yeah.
Making sure that we have what we're supposed to have and that it's actually being enforced. So, you know, it's a little bit of a misnomer to say that it's just disability, because it's actually just, you know, ease of existence for an aging population. Thank you.
Do you have anything, Wayne?
Well, I did
Nope.
want to add one
Nope,
quick
I'm
thing.
sorry.
I just want to, when coming in this afternoon, I noticed that what kind of trees were?
Arborvitaes.
Arborvitaes, I always forget the name. But they're all cut down, and I think that it's wonderful because they hadn't been maintained they were put in, I think, when we did the remodeling of the town hall. What year was that?
1999.
99? But they were put in, but they weren't maintained and really out of control. And I understand that there were probably vermin.
And there's some vermin issues that we were experiencing. We had some security concerns with people in behind them at odd hours. And then with the upcoming installation of some security cameras, by rule, you're supposed to eliminate any attractive nuisances and areas where someone could be hiding. The hope is to actually grind the stumps down, at least flush cut, let them degrade on their own, and then in between where the stumps are, to put something more appropriate to the scope of the building, something that's kind of a low-growing or dwarf evergreen, something that'll provide a wind barrier against the bottom of the building, but not get to the point that you end up with the molds that you see on the bricks and the lack of circulation, which is really not a good thing.
I think they were interfering with some parking as well. You couldn't
Yeah, we
couldn't
kept-
pull in, especially on voting times or, town meeting when we have a lot of cars back there. You couldn't park
Yeah, we were
next
having
to
to
the
hack.
building.
We were having to hack them up in order to be able to get cars to fit into the parking spaces too. So not only were they impacting the masonry of the building, but they were definitely impeding in the parking space too.
Great. Wayne, what's the
Nope,
improvement?
just apologies for missing last week's meeting. Work gets in the way sometimes,
It's okay.
and Donald
Yeah.
Trump did too, so.
Yeah, work does that. I did want to just mention a couple things that I'd like to see us talk about going forward. One is the position in this office, the admin position. And it's really not just this position. I feel like we have opportunities as positions are vacated to review, it's an opportunity to review what the job description is compared to what our needs are today. And update them, revamp them, whatever. So I was wondering if you could take a look at something like that and bring us something back for the next meeting. It's similar to what I think I've talked about before, raising the bar, getting to a different level of competency and experience, and knowing that you might have to pay for that as well. I'm assuming we're going to post not just internally, but externally for that.
I've posted internally already. And this is a little tricky because it's not an agenda item, so I want to be cautious to not seek a vote of the board to give me some direction here, but just kind of hear what you each have to say as we're talking about it. I wouldn't want to continue to post a position that is inconsistent with what the board thinks the position should be. And this gets a little tricky because it's not a charter-listed position, which are the ones that fall to the board proper to appoint. So
But it is in the personnel, in the Board of Selectmen policies and operations manual. It's mentioned in there.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
you know.
The existence of it is mentioned there. The existence of it is referenced in a number of different documents over the last 30 years.
But it's more specific. I think it says the board, with your recommendation, appoints that position too.
I've not seen that, so if you can direct me to that, that would be
It's
helpful.
in the policies that were signed in 2017, I believe. The operating policies and procedures for the Board of Selectmen. I just read it the other
Yeah,
day.
I'd be surprised if that's there, because that's entirely inconsistent with how it's been being done.
Well, that
in
could
the
be,
past.
but,
How would that fall?
That could-
Would the charter have it be over a policy?
yes, the charter should
Oh,
be.
okay.
It definitely would.
But then we know the charter hasn't been
That's
revised.
what's
No, but the charter's still a legal document,
But
we
that's what's
can't throw it
nice-
away.
That's what's dicey about this, is that, presume that there is no reference in this policy to that, and that, as it has been done in the past, it's the TA's appointment. You appoint the TA. You set policy for the TA. So it's a balancing act between, if I hear a consensus of the board that they want this to be something different, and I choose to say, thanks, but no thanks, it's my position, I'm gonna do what I want. I do that at my own risk, at my own peril, because I would have heard directly from the board that they wanted something, and I would have ignored it. So it is a tricky
Well, I
piece of
don't,
work.
I don't necessarily want to discuss it tonight. I just,
And I guess my point too is I wouldn't advertise it out on the street.
oh,
unless
no,
and-
no,
unless and until
no. I
know
was
what it
just
is.
asking what your intention at this point was, that's all. That's fine. Did you find it? Thank you.
That's the policy.
So, role of support staff of the office, the Board of Selectmen. The board hires support staff. Said hiring shall be made by recommendation from the town administrator. So that's the line you're talking about.
Yes. Mhm. I mean, I just look at that as it's a team effort between you and us, so.
Yeah, and candidly, I should have seen this because I was here when this was adopted.
It's a complicated little,
No,
I've read
no, it's
the
not.
thing so many
It's not.
times.
It's not.
I never can remember what's in there.
Sometimes I'm guilty of reading what I think I know into what I'm
That's
actually
fine,
reading.
that's fine,
So,
no problem. Anyway, suffice it to say that I personally think that every time we have an open position, we should look at that job description and make sure that it's up to date in terms of what do we need from that position.
For instance, we know the treasurer collector, we are currently open. We have interviewed, we have found competent candidates, only to determine that we are well under what the market's paying for the positions. I had a call from my counterpart in the town of Grafton last week, had seen that we're advertising for the position. He said, "What do you pay?" I told him what our range was, and he chuckled. He goes, "Okay, I got nothing to worry about with you guys."
That's wonderful.
I mean, they're paying 15 grand more than us. Now, Grafton's a different community, obviously, than we are, but
But we just lost our very competent treasurer to error.
for not just money.
No,
No, I know there's more
Yes.
to it.
Like there's a finance director position that she can ascend
But that,
to.
to Sue's point, that's something, do you look at that as another stepping stone or something that we should be thinking about adding on top of that?
I don't want to be a training ground.
Sure.
Right.
Because that doesn't help us. That doesn't help us. I mean, somebody comes here for a year or so and bye-bye because
That's what we're
this.
doing with most of our positions. We just did that last week.
And we need to break out
We
of
just hired
that.
another training position last week.
But we need to break out of that somehow. Okay, so looking to you to come back with some suggestions on that, please? Okay?
Absolutely.
Just, you probably remember, right, in 2015, I just remember because you're here with that position in particular, it was reviewed and surveyed and part of the update from HRS. So that was
Right.
one of the more newer positions.
Right. I looked at it and I agree. I agree. And, but
someone that's been in it, was in it for 12 years prior, it's all the same.
I'm looking beyond what it's been. I think it's an opportunity, and I think any good manager does this. I think a good manager looks at, all right, this is what it's been, this is what it consists of now, but what does it need to be going forward? What's our future, and where is this position in our future, and what will that require? Okay, so it may be, if you really let your imagination go and you really start thinking about that, I'm sure that there are going to be some tweaks that you could make to it. So, and it may be more attractive to folks too. It may be a stretch for somebody, or it may be a new opportunity for someone to do what they want to do for the future too. How do we keep growing is my point on that. Okay, so it just happens that this is one of the open positions, but okay. And that's, I'd just like to see what you have on it. Flag committee for the next meeting?
Confirmed.
Okay, did you get a hold of Todd?
Yes, confirmed, 6:50 on the 20th.
Nice, excellent, okay, because he hadn't gotten that, I know he
He did
was,
today, I got his email address.
wonderful, thank you. And the clerical job for the water department for the next meeting?
Presuming we get the documentation.
Yeah, well, Paul had contacted me earlier later this afternoon, by the time I connected with him. And I said, it's a little bit too close to the meeting that you wouldn't have had time to really take a look at it. So I said, probably the next meeting would be the best.
Excellent.
Okay? So he's going to get you that. Can we get an update for the next meeting on Unitil and the destruction of trees?
Sounds like a Harry Potter
I know,
novel title.
really.
Unitil and the destruction of
I know they've been doing an
trees.
excellent job in
Take
clearing,
a
saving
ride.
us from another ice storm, so I'm
Oh,
really
no,
impressed
no.
with, they've been taking trees down for a couple of years now, and I'm really impressed by
Took
the
Ashby
Oh,
to town.
Huh?
Ashby's just destroyed.
Ashby is destroyed.
They were taking out
okay?
100-year-old trees.
Oh, it's terrible. They have been going,
You don't know that they were there now, unfortunately, too.
No, I know.
They've ground the stumps down, and it's as
Oh,
though,
good.
the trees that were this big in the center.
well,
never existed.
my heart is,
I just don't want another ice storm that we had a few
well,
years ago.
you know what, ice storms happen too, okay? And I don't mind them coming along and trimming branches and stuff like that, okay? Especially if they do it aesthetically. However, and to avoid hurting the tree, and I understand they have a right-of-way or a certain amount belongs to the utilities, and I understand all of that, but I just don't think that you have to totally take down every tree within 10 feet of the road, which is happening. Take a ride down to a Timberley Park. It looks like a tornado came through and just,
Are they pine trees that they took, or is that what you're talking
they're
about?
taking
taking
everything.
Maples, oaks.
Okay, everything. They're stopping and asking neighbors, people who live there, can I take that tree down? And I'm looking at it and I'm saying, well, I guess there's a possibility that this massive oak could fall, but it's more likely that one of the oak's branches would fall. Oak trees and established maple trees simply do not just crash down.
Well, they have an arborist. Should we invite
Well,
them?
they have an arborist,
They
but
came,
these are
they
not
spoke
the...
to us already.
This is not an arborist that's doing it. There's two groups. One came by the first time, and what they were doing was just trimming. And it looked like very thoughtful trimming. It was one company. It was a different company. And it was very thoughtful trimming, and you could see that they were doing what they needed to protect the ice storms. Then I heard that, well, this other company is coming in because Unitil has decided that they're going to do it the way that they do it in Ohio, which is take anything that's within 10 feet of the road. I'm going to allow a question.
I guess my question is, how does this fit with the Scenic Roads Act? Because I know that you can't, I mean, even to put in a driveway, if you're taking, you have to notify the abutters, and they're taking down these trees. How does it fit?
I don't know.
thought
That's
we
why-
had all scenic roads.
That's why I'm asking for them to come in and explain what is going on.
I think
Okay?
this was all that, then when they came to see us a couple years ago, before, as this plan was presented and it was signed off by the Board of Selectmen.
I
And
did
after
not,
Barbara-
I did not agree, and I don't think our community agreed that they were going to take
I don't
down.
think you were on the board at the time.
10 feet is a lot. 10 feet is a lot, especially when you're going down some of these country roads. I'm serious, take a ride down toward
I
my
will.
house and you'll see what I'm
But I
talking
know that
about.
the work they did on Main Street, I was quite impressed with. In fact, there was a tree, I
Well,
can't remember the guy, there was a tree that they didn't take down because the homeowner didn't want to take it down. And a couple weeks ago, there was a storm and the tree fell down. Most of the tree fell into the road and took out his fence.
And I mean, that's
And I
going
think the power went out.
well,
And the power's about to go out.
Yeah.
We have a storm warning right now in case anybody's not aware of that.
yeah, it looks a little black.
Just
Did
so-
you hear anything about
Speaking
it?
of trees coming
So
down.
the board's aware, I did have a gentleman come in today, and he wants to keep his name quiet because he's happy it happened, but he was concerned, somebody came and took his tree, and it wasn't even on the side of the power lines. So.
Well,
there
that's my point.
And-
They're
Yeah,
taking
He
them.
said, I don't want to complain, and
that's
I
what
don't
they did
want to
last
put my
year, too.
name forward, because I'm actually thrilled it's gone, because it saves me money, but that sort of concerned me when they came to my house, and I don't know what it was like for the rest of you. They wanted to take our tree, and we said no, so we gave them permission to trim a few branches, and we had to sign permission for it and everything, and I'm a little worried that maybe the permission things aren't being followed
All
through
right,
with.
you know when you're coming into South Road?
Yeah, if that's not happening, but.
You know when you're coming into South Road, there's all that conservation land on the right, or whatever, it's, I don't know if it's conservation or if it's recreation, but there's a trail that you can walk down toward the river in the back there. That whole section, they've just raised it all. It's gone.
The power lines running through there?
The power lines are running right there.
They are, right?
Okay, they're running there along the street, and 10 feet, no trees left. And I hate to be, we live in a really pretty town, and I think you can be safe and reasonable without totally destroying the look of things. And you should see it. It's sad. I mean, people that don't even live there have said to me, what the heck are they doing? Why did they do that?
Do you know who owns that property? Because they would have to have gotten permission.
It's gotta be,
Oh.
it's state,
I don't know
right.
the exact
Yeah, on the
location.
right-hand side.
Right, but I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it's Fish and Wildlife.
I think it's Fish and
it is.
Wildlife, yeah. But speaking of fish and wildlife, hello, how many animals do you think were living in 10 feet of woods? So, not that I put human safety above that, but just the same, I really would like to hear their justification and their reason for doing this, because, and I think they're talking people into taking down some of their trees because it could fall someday. I don't know. Thank you. That's, the only other thing is, and I know it's a new thing, we had talked about attaching to the agendas all of the list of incomplete items or
Yep.
whatever.
Yeah,
And we
absolutely.
missed it, so let's get that back on, if you don't mind. That's it. Anything else?
Negative.
Review and sign payroll and.
What,
I move the board's review and sign payroll and bills payable outside of session.
Second.
been moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
I do have one other thing. Could we get a report as well on the staffing at the police? Okay, staffing for
Yes, I wanted
police.
to add that too.
Pardon me?
I wanted to add that too.
Oh, you did, okay. Staffing for police and,
Particularly the SRO,
pardon me?
particularly the SRO.
Oh, yes, school starts pretty soon, right?
Oh, do we have, do they have one? Oh, gee.
We'll
Okay,
have the chief on the next agenda.
that would be good.
I move that
Please.
we adjourn at
Second.
6:52.
And be careful.
I would say don't go running out of the building.
Ooh.
Good one.
And you seconded it?
Yeah.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn?
Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Let's get a nice red
Thank
cluster.
you.